Once a week on this program, we are graced with one of the greatest to ever do it, the Hall of Famer himself, not just one of the greatest NBA players, one of the greatest Golden State Warriors in the lore of this franchise's rich history. That man right next to me is one of the greatest to ever lace him up. And we're going to talk hoops next. The Warriors, they got some youngsters, Rick. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to hear about what your thoughts are about Quinten, Gui Santos, and so much more. Let's get into it. It's the Golden.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle it when Rick Barry's in the house because he's going to drop those truth bombs on you. You could follow Rick Barry, the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever do it. A top 50 player, in my humble opinion, closer to top 15 would be more realistic on that front. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. Let me get the banner underneath so folks can see the visual of how they can follow you, sir. There you go. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild, on Twitter at Surf Journalist. Rick, before we get into it, we have a title sponsor dedicated just to you, sir, and that is Dr. Tom Rosanelli, the hair restoration specialist. And Rick, we are approaching the 50-year anniversary of the Golden State Warriors arguably pulling off the greatest upset in professional sports history. Your team sweeping the Washington Bullets. That's what they were called back then. I still can't believe they're called the Wizards. 50 years, sir. And if you apply that,
that's April. That's come April, May, and May time, man, when we won. Yeah, it'd be full 50 years, but this is the 50th year. We're in that 50th coming up now. And it's pretty special. And so I think Dr. Rosanelli wants to offer people an opportunity to save a little money in the year 2025. And if you've got some hair issues, you should definitely check him out. I just wish that he was around earlier when I first started out and really needed it. I caught him a little bit late, but he's terrific. All personal stuff. It's not some big conglomerate stuff that you don't know who's going to be there. He's going to be the guy taking care of you. Really good guy, really good at what he does. And so let's say for the 50th anniversary, 50 is nothing today. I mean, come on, $50, you can hardly go out and have a good meal for $50 nowadays. So let's make it 500.
Ooh, I think that sounds incredible. So what Rick is saying here, folks, if you want the treatment, from one of the greatest doctors in the San Francisco Bay Area, that's primarily where we're based, that's where the Warriors play. If you want the treatment of Dr. Tom Rosanelli and you want a $500 discount, just either call Dr. Rosanelli's office at 415-931-9881 or visit rosanelli.com. Mention Rick Barry's name, and because it is the 50-year anniversary of the 1975 Warriors winning the title, it's coming up. It's going to be this June or May, whenever it was back then. You will get $500 off. And what Dr. Rosanelli provides is both, first of all, it's state-of-the-art technology. Rick, you mentioned that before. He's an expert in multiple hair restoration procedures, whether it's FUE, which is follicular unit excision, and he also does FUS, which is follicular unit strip procedure. Side note, a procedure that nearly every newer and young doctor out there is not doing because they don't have the expertise of Dr. Rosanelli, who also specializes in multiple non-surgical treatments, including PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma treatment. It slows hair loss and accelerates new growth. The summary of this is this, and Rick, I'm going to guess you're going to agree with me here. If your hair is thinning, and especially for the gentleman out there who, let's say, you got to get back out there in the dating scene, or you are in the dating scene. You don't want to be single trying to pick up ladies with a bald head with thinning hair. And if you're married and your wife's giving you looks like, I don't know what's going on there. Make the wife happy. Make the partner happy. Make the ladies or gentlemen, whatever you're pursuing,
Hey,
make them happy
make
with
yourself happy.
that too. That
If you
too.
look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, do something about it.
Absolutely. Visit Dr. Tom Rosanelli, the title sponsor of the Rick Barry Show. One more time, call 415-931-9881 or visit rosanelli.com. A beautiful head of hair awaits you. Today's episode also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code GSW or click the QR code for a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I got slaughtered yesterday, Rick. The premise of Underdog, and Rick, I don't know if you'll appreciate this or not. I love this sponsor for many reasons, chief among them. They're legal in California. They're legal in over 30 U.S. states. And the premise is all about betting whether or not you think a player will hit higher or lower than certain amounts. So, Rick, for example, if you were still at the peak of your powers in your playing days, last night when the Warriors played the Bulls, Underdog Fantasy would have probably listed your number as, say, 29.5. And folks would have to guess, are you going to score higher than that? Or are you going to score lower than that? And if you select correctly, you win money. My docket last night, Rick, I had 8 selections. I decided to go all out. I only bet $10. I would have won $5,000 if I'd won. I'm going to be a winner someday. You can too. Again, download Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code GSW or click the QR code for a free pick and up to $1,000 in cash. And last but not least, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform. The Warriors were favorites last night, I believe, by 1.5 points. They covered that spread easily. You could have won money with BetOnline. BetOnline, the game starts here. Rick, again, people can follow you on all social media platforms at Rick24 Barry. Your reaction to that win last night.
One second. Let me say something about the betting stuff. You
Please.
see, before betting was legal and doing stuff, I found out that when I would go to New York, Rick, how you feeling? How you doing? I found out that they were betting because they loved to bet back in New York, and they would bet on how many points I get in the first half or in the one quarter. I mean, it was unbelievable. So all that stuff was actually going on, and now you can do it legally. You can do it for rather, so you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about trying to find somebody willing to do that. There's a company out there willing to do that for you. And that's an interesting one, more so than the points. Because as I told you, anything can happen in the game of basketball. I mean, just take a look at what's happened over the last few weeks. I mean, the Celtics, who are playing great, doing stuff, go up and get beaten by Toronto, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like crazy stuff that's going on. And then they got their butts kicked by the Lakers just recently.
Well, why don't we start there? Parity seems to be fully now integrated in the NBA in today's game. Do you like it?
Not totally,
Okay.
because the good teams are still there. They got great records. But as I say, always expect the unexpected. Things can happen. Who would have thought that Dallas, with all the injuries that they've had recently, right, and people out and Jokic and stuff, that they go and they beat Oklahoma City. I think they beat them the last 2 times they played them and just beat them the other night, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so crazy stuff like that goes on all the time. You just don't know what's going to happen in the world of basketball. I mean, but that's the whole. That's why it's called gambling. This is like when I like to go fishing. Actually, I like to go catching, but a lot of times it's fishing. So I was fishing in South Island of New Zealand, and it was fishing because there weren't a lot of fish there, and brown trout are hard to catch anyway. But I did catch some really nice big trout. But I'm a numbers guy, so it wasn't exactly the thing because I love it. Every time I get a strike and set that hook, it's like an adrenaline rush for me. And I had to work hard down there to get it, but it was a great place. And Owen River Lodge, beautiful place. The food was off the charts. I had one of the greatest guides ever, but it was not a lot of fish, but I caught a lot of great fish.
Is Owens River Lodge in New Zealand available to the public? Is this a friend of yours?
Yeah, no, it's over there. It's a long way to go. That's a long trip. Oh boy, that's a long way to get there. But just really great people, and I met my guys that I told you. There's the Rick Barry ad agency now in Sydney, Australia. 2 really successful ad guys got together and decided to have their own business and called me up and asked me if they can use and be the Rick Barry ad agency. I met them when I was back down there. I've been in contact with them for quite a while. Great guys. Met the family of one of them. They're cute little girls and their children and their little son. And so, yeah, the guys are great, and it was a great experience. I just wish I was back, because that's where my wife and I went on our honeymoon. We went to Australia and to the North Island of New Zealand. So being back there, and I came back another time with her when she was doing stuff for USA Basketball. So it was kind of weird to be there without my wife, but and the longest I've ever been away. So that was a tough thing as well. But anyway, check it out. Australia's a great place. They speak the language. Although I will say that the Kiwis and down there had their accent was pretty pronounced, and they would speak to me, and I probably got about 3/4 of it sometimes when they were talking fast. But nice people, great people, really, really kind of special. So I was really, really happy to get down there with you and Alex. Good guys.
Oh, beautiful. And they have direct flights to New Zealand. I went to French Polynesia
Oh God,
once.
yeah. You can go from, LA has, it's like 15, 17 hours, and then you can fly out of Houston on the way back. I came back through Houston, and yeah, but it's a long way to go. It really is, but it's worth it. It's pretty special.
Well, that's what fun drugs are for,
Hey,
sir.
man, I can tell you, I learned what cricket's all about. I told you, I went to my first
You
ever
did.
cricket
We
game,
talked-
right? So that's my
Yeah, we
thing.
did.
I learned about cricket, so now I understand how cricket is played. I realized I could have been a really good cricket batsman, because I had good eye-hand coordination, really struck out when I was playing baseball, which I was better in baseball than I was in basketball in high school.
Incredible.
So I could have been a good cricket player, I think.
That's incredible. Again, you're one of the greatest athletes, I think, in the history of humanity. So no surprises there. And real fast before we talk Warriors and more specifically last night's game, because I'd love to get your reaction, especially given we saw some young pieces contribute in a huge way. But real quick, because we don't exist without our sponsors, we're not working for free. Dylan Verano bringing up in the chat that LeBron James, who look, it's the worst kept secret in basketball that he's got the hair plugs. He went to Dr. Rosanelli. Rick, do you think Dr. Rosanelli would have done a better job with LeBron James, or did LeBron is his standards up to your liking, sir?
I didn't really check it out all that closely, but when he does his job now compared to when I first had my stuff done decades and decades ago, you can't even tell. I mean, it's really pretty remarkable. That's the whole thing about technology. I mean, just look at what happened with, all the electronic stuff. I mean, look at the big screen TVs and stuff that we have now, how incredible they are. I mean, it's constantly improving all the time, computers, all that other stuff. Same thing with hair restoration. And Dr. Rosanelli has been on top of it all the time.
Absolutely. And again, one more time, mention Rick Barry's name for a $500 discount. That is a big deal. Call 415-931-9881 or visit rosanelli.com. At a bare minimum, just do the show a favor. If you're a fan of the show, give him a call. Click on the website. Just at the very least, let the doctor know that you saw the ad. It'll help us tremendously. And look, again, if your hair is thinning, gentlemen, make yourself feel good, as the Hall of Famer just said, and visit Dr. Tom Rosanelli. Rick, the Warriors
no obligation if you go in and get an appointment to go get seen. It doesn't cost you anything to do that.
Yes, sir. Exactly. It's free of charge just to give a call or check in. He does virtual visits as well at rosanelli.com. Rick, the Bulls game last night, and again, look, the Chicago Bulls are not exactly a litmus test for where your team is at. Now, with that said, the Warriors desperately needed that win, and they were down 22-6 to start this game early in the first quarter. They trailed 64-63 at the half, and then a third quarter explosion really put the Bulls away, but it was spearheaded by two youngsters, Rick. Gui Santos and Quinten Post. Moses Moody was also playing fantastic basketball. What was your reaction to last night's game?
Very pleased to see that they were able to respond to getting their butts kicked again after being humiliated a couple of times recently in games that they played. It would have been real easy to give up and say, oh, here's another game, just write it off. And they didn't do that, to their credit, and got themselves back in it at halftime. Decided to play a little better defense. You can't give up 67 points at home to a team and expect to win all the time, but you can do it if you play well in the second half. And so they were able to accomplish that. Here's the thing about that game that I don't know. In fact, I talked to Raymond Ritter, the VP who does all this stuff with the press and the media. Has been with forever. Just a great guy. Raymond's great. And so I was talking with Raymond about it, and I said, here's the thing that really stuck out to me. I don't recall ever looking at a box score in all the years that have been around the game and looking at it where 5 bench players scored double figures. 5.
Yeah.
They more than the starting five. I mean, 5 bench players played their butts off, and especially with Post, I really like that. I mean, a guy who can stretch it out 5 for 10 from 3-point range. I mean, you talk about opening up the floor. That's fabulous. And plus, he can pass the basketball. Those are the kind of things that I really like to see, and it's really nice when you are a team that it just never gives up because you don't know what can happen. So I was proud of the team for doing what they did. And boy, I mean, Steve went big time deep into the roster. You talk about going 7, 8, 9, 10 deep. I mean, hell, I think he played like 14 guys who played like 3 minutes, is the least amount that anybody played. Pretty special. Yeah, I was very pleased to see how they performed. Now, they got to do it again. They got the Lakers coming up. Lakers just came up big win against the Celtics, kicked their butt.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. But don't panic. I mean, seriously. And here's a great thing. This is an awesome statistic. Got this from Raymond. The Warriors have played in what they call, close games down the wire, which means if you were within 5 points, in the last 5 minutes of the game, they've had 27. I think it's 27 of those games, or 25. I think it's 27, and they're 13-14 in those, and it's the second most of any team in the league. And just think about that. And they're only 13-14. So if they had just played a little bit better, not a whole lot better, just think how much better their record could be.
Yeah.
So they
We're
have
talking about
14.
a relatively new stat. It's called clutch, where if you're
Yeah.
within 5 points, the final 5 minutes of a game, they call that a clutch game. And the Warriors are second in that department to just the Minnesota Timberwolves. They led the league in that category last year. Rick, are you like these close games? Like, what is your thoughts on that? Like to me, there's a lot to break down in terms of why the Warriors keeping these games close. They can't blow their opponent out.
Inconsistency. It's inconsistency,
Yeah.
and they don't have a lot of guys are younger guys without the experience of doing it, and it's a matter of losing focus during the course of games. I talk about this all the time. I mean, the key element to learn how to be a great professional athlete is to learn how to stay focused when you're competing. It's so easy to lose your focus. You lose your focus, you could be playing hard, but if you're not focused, you're going to be half a step late. And a half a step in basketball is a disaster.
Mhm.
Now, I only need a half a step I don't need to get by you. I just need to get you on my shoulder. That's a half a step. And so when you lose that focus, your defense isn't there. The weak side isn't helping out. You miss, you don't get the loose balls. You're just not as good when you're not focused and really honed in on what you're supposed to be doing. And the Warriors have a propensity to do that. If it's not one thing, it's another. Silly passes, turnovers, right? They do that at times, which causes them a problem. And then if you're not focused in, you're a little half a step late getting over to help on the rotation defensively. So it's just those little things like that.
Mhm.
But it's encouraging to know that they were in so many games that if they could just improve in that one area alone, that's a whole different thing that puts them in the middle of the pack playoff wise.
Correct. You're absolutely, and they're literally I think they're 2.5, maybe 3 games out of the 6th seed currently. That's how congested the middle of the Western Conference is right now, which is crazy to me. That you talk about the inconsistency, and one thing I keep seeing is a lack of faith, a lack of trust in the youth. And what I mean by that is, I look back to the Warriors' recent 4-game road trip, which the Warriors incredibly split. They were 2-2 on that trip, despite being decimated by injury. And I saw success when Gui Santos was starting at the 4. If anything, Gui Santos to me looks like a perfect 4 for the Steve Kerr system. It's like a natural fit. At what point, Rick, if ever, do you think we're going to see a Warriors team where Kerr actually has some faith and some trust in his youngsters? Because the starting lineup that we saw last night, and I do think there's a correlation there between who he started with and the Warriors being down 20-6 to start that game, was going with, again, Buddy Hield, who has been abysmal for the Warriors for the majority of this season. I don't understand Gary Payton the second starting games. Gui Santos, to me, I think should be a starter. I feel like it's almost a common sense thing. I'm glad we saw Quinten Post. I wouldn't object to him starting. What are your thoughts on Steve Kerr's slow adaptation to these youngsters? It's the pace is so ridiculous. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Well, obviously, he's the guy that makes the major decisions. He's the one that sees them on a regular basis. And he has made a lot of different changes in lineups, trying to find the right combination.
A lot.
But I tend to agree with your thought process on this. I'm a big believer in playing my young people.
Yes, same.
Mainly because if you play your young people and find out what they can do, give them the opportunity, help to build their confidence, then you've got, based by the time the season's over, you got a veteran. But if you're not playing them come playoff time, you got a rookie or you got a young player who hasn't really played all that much. And the only way you can get better is you got to play to really get better. I mean, it's hard to get better sitting and watching. And so, I mean, that's why I know they send them down and they get to play more down over there. Well, if they go down there and they play well and you bring them back up, play them.
Exactly.
That's just my thought. I mean, and obviously it worked really well for them last night. They're showing promise. So give them a chance. I mean, it can't be much worse than what it is. I mean, especially when you're going out there, falling down 20-something points early in the game at home and you're trying to use your veteran players. I mean, just think about it. And if you're playing those guys, if it goes bad, you're bringing your veterans in who hopefully will play better for you. And that's been one of the key successes for the Warriors is that they develop a bench. The bench is critical if you want to be a championship team. You got to have people to come in when the starters are struggling to be able to, if nothing else, just to hold the ship steady so it doesn't sink, right? Exactly. And hopefully sometimes not only do they, some guys, they get in, they write it and they get going, they boom, take off and they're going, they get the wind blowing the right way and they're sailing along and having great success. And that's what I think one of the keys to the Warriors championship seasons is you look at their bench. And we talked about that after they made a bunch of trades when they had stuff about, wow, what's going to happen there? And they made the right moves. They still have a chance to get that together, but give the guys some chance to get experience.
Absolutely. And what was your personal reaction? And look, I know it was just one game. Quinten post last night, and we've talked about this before. Stephen Curry has never in his career had a stretch five. The very concept of a stretch five, like, what did that exist when you played, Rick? I feel like that's a new...
No, there's a if you took the 3-point shot, if you shot from that distance before the 3-pointer was in, the coach would put you on the bench. I mean, it was crazy. And now they shoot so many 3-point shots. It's a different game. It really is. Now, anything can be abused, right? Too much of anything sometimes is no good. And a lot of times they take ill-advised 3-point shots. Let's just say that. Ill-advised. I love the 3-point shot in transition. If you don't have a pass for a dunk or a layup and you're 3-on-2, shoot the 3. You got a better chance of getting an offensive rebound than the other team does. That's a perfect time to do it. And then keep penetrating. Try to see if you can get in and get fouled. And if not, then you can kick out to people and have an opportunity to get those set 3-point shots. But what I don't like is they don't have a lot of ball movement. There's a whole bunch of dribbling going on or something, which the Warriors really don't do very often because they've become their own worst enemy. At times they did that when KD was here because they relied so much on KD's great performance. I mean, and if he's on, hey, you don't have to worry about it because he's going to kill the other team anyway. But when you don't have that going for you now, then you got to play the style of basketball that's brought success to them. Pass, move, cut. Not a lot of one-on-one stuff. Not a lot of stuff coming down. I like transition. I like coming down and shooting the ball in transition a lot. I like that a lot more than, penetration and doing stuff and throwing it to a guy with 2 seconds on the shot clock and he's got to jack up a shot not really being ready. I don't like that kind of basketball. So and to have a guy that can go 5 for 10, come on, 5 for 10 for a 7-footer. I mean, that's awesome. That's unbelievable. I mean, hell, if he only shot 33%, that's a great thing because that's 50 from twos. But 5 for 10 is 15 points, folks. That's 15 points on 10 shots. To get 15 points on 2-pointers, that's 75% basically. It's crazy. So crazy. I mean, if he could do anything remotely close to that on a fairly consistent basis, that's a huge plus for them. And plus, he looks like he sees the floor, that he can make some passes and stuff. Yeah, it's a great thing to have. And then, hey, if nothing else, that the big is not going to be in there to block shots like a guy when he comes back. Kuminga goes to the basket. Well, if that center comes out, just you throw it out to him, 3-point shot, wide open.
I highlight Portola 45 in the chat who brings up Clifford Ray, your beloved teammate on the 75 championship team, an important role player on that team. Who just celebrated his birthday. Happy belated birthday, Clifford Ray.
Clifford just had his birthday. I'll see him. He'll be out there. He's doing a bunch of stuff with his book, Clifford Ray Saves the Day, about the story of him saving the dolphin. And he's been, doing a great job raising money for prostate cancer for Duke University for cancer research there. And he'll be out there doing a whole bunch of stuff. In fact, I guess Steph Curry donated some of his books to him. He's got a big thing going on in Oakland. Charles Dudley's going to be out there, and Jamal Wilkes, some of my teammates and doing a bunch of things there, getting books out. So yeah, but Clifford was not just a role player. Clifford was the starter. George Johnson was the guy who came in off the bench. And but the two of them were like having a great center. We had 12 fouls to use. George was the finesse shot blocker. Clifford could block shots too, but he was the guy to jump out. And hell, he could jump out and guard a point guard out on the floor. He was unbelievable. And as I said many times before, Clifford Ray was the most important person on the Golden State Warriors championship team, not me. Without Clifford Ray, we don't win.
Is it fair that his role was akin to Dennis Rodman on the Bulls, Draymond Green on this team? Like just your enforcer?
No, I would say more than that, because he was the guy that brought everybody together. The personality that he had, the way he got along with guys, the respect that everybody had for him. So he was, I would say, more important to Dennis. If anything, Dennis was a distraction. You didn't know what
Fair.
color lipstick he was going to wear, or I mean, it was like,
That's fair.
What color his dress was going to be, whether or not he was going to go to Las Vegas and gamble in between games. I mean, who the hell knew what Dennis was going to do?
That's a very fair point. No, the Dennis Rodman off the court, that's a book, and it's been published. Rick, I think a lot of consternation with the fan base is the fact that we saw this game where, and it wasn't just Quinten Post shooting, who you mentioned went 5 of 10 from deep. Gui Santos followed a 4 of 5 3-point shooting performance in a loss at Sacramento with a 5 of 6 shooting performance from deep in the win over the Bulls. The Warriors are playing the Lakers next. I think if Steve Kerr rolls with this Wiggins at the 4, GP2, Buddy Hield in the starting lineup, if he rolls with that again, they're cooked. I think this is a blowout. This is not going to be entertaining basketball. What are your thoughts on taking, at least from Steve Kerr's perspective, a bold step and rolling with Quinten Post and Gui Santos as your starters for this game? What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't have any issue with that. Plus the fact it's a way to show these guys are getting rewarded for the attitude they've had and the way that they've performed. I mean, the hardest thing in the world to do is to have somebody out there busting their hump for you all the time in practice, whatever. And, getting, some minutes here or there, whatever. But then you finally get a chance to play something and you perform at a high level. You should be rewarded. That's just my philosophy. I would reward my guys that way.
Good philosophy. Yes.
And like I say, the thing is, if you start out with them and they're struggling some, you're bringing in your veteran guys, which will hopefully be an advantage, for you to do that. And even the same way, like I told you before, when I was coaching in the minor leagues and stuff, if my starters played poorly and I bring my other guys in right away and you play and they do a great job and get you back in the game and you go to halftime, I start them in the third quarter.
Yeah.
I reward them. I reward them for what they're doing and tell the starters, look, you guys need to do what they just did in the first half. I'm going to give them a chance to see if they can keep the momentum going the way they're playing. And if not, and you come in, you need to do what they did and pick things up and let's get a win out of this. But reward the guys that they deserve it.
Tasha, if you're watching, that's a YouTube short right there. Please cut that up. And you're absolutely right. And we did not see that in the Kings game. Gui Santos kept the Warriors in it in that first half, and then we didn't see him again until with about a minute and change remaining in the third quarter. Thankfully, Steve Kerr did not repeat that mistake in the Bulls game. We saw Gui Santos and Quinten Post rewarded, like you said. I wholeheartedly agree with that philosophy. I don't know why you wouldn't do that, sir. Sorry, did you want to add anything? Or
No, I was just moving a thing out of the way.
I'm sorry. I wanted to add to that the urgency for a trade for this Golden State Warriors has clearly been there. Given after their 12-3 start before last night's game, they were 9-18 since. They're now 10-18 since. But that urgency, all it took was one game with real legitimate minutes for Gui Santos and Quinten Post to quell the thirst of that trade. That a lot of people are just really demanding and wanting. What are your thoughts? Like, I know it's one game. It's a very weak sample size, but if this continues, is there a need for a trade? Do you like this team rolling the way it is?
This is why I think it's even more essential to give these guys a chance to play. Because now you can find out whether or not they might be the answer, and you don't need to do a trade and have to go ahead and sell the future. And if they show the promise that they've shown in these games and can play consistently at a high level, then you kind of know what you have, and is it really now necessary to make the move to do the other? And plus, take this into account. There is no doubt in my mind that if this team gets themselves together and makes a total commitment to really being good defensively, team-wise. That they got to do that. They can't be giving up 60-something points at home, and you don't want to be doing that. Get themselves together defensively and have these other young guys hopefully get a chance to play consistently at a high level. Get Kuminga back, get everybody healthy. Then Steph Curry has not played at his best, okay, this season so far. And he has such a big upside when he's really going. And I think Steph will rise to the occasion if necessary for this team to do something. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I mean, he's got some of the lowest levels ever for scoring in his career and his history doing things. Yeah, I mean, come on. We know it's look at the Olympics. It's a perfect example. He struggled. But when they needed him, what happened?
He rose.
Thank
he rose
you.
to the occasion.
I rest my case.
Yeah. No, and Rick, you're absolutely right. The data is showing right now that Steph is not having a great year by his standards, even though he was just named to the All-Star team as a starter.
Right.
But my
pushback
on that
is
is
the fans. 50% of that is the fans, and everybody loves him. So yeah.
Fair. But my pushback on that is he also has so much pressure. Every possession I watch, even the defenses are not making it obvious. Like they're not trapping him right when he crosses half court. But you watch any other defender on that court, especially the closest defender to Steph, their eyes are not on the player they're assigned to defend. Their eyes are on Steph. The entire defense's focus is Steph. Do you think part of the struggles, at least, is because of the fact that he has no help, and maybe that's where Quinten Post, among many reasons, brings value? Like, what are your thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that the other team's philosophy is that, look, we don't want to give Steph any open looks. So the thing about it is when he's on his game, it doesn't matter. If he's going, he'll pull up from 30 feet and be able to knock him down and make it if he's on his game. But if the other guys can play at that level and do something, that's going to make it easier for him because then they'll continue to get good shots. And if they focus on Steph so much, then they're going to have to stop doing that, which is going to make it easier for Steph. And so that's the beauty of them becoming weapons for this team. It takes the onus off of Steph. And that's why Buddy needs to get back to shooting the way he did earlier on in the season when he was coming through with big games. And if he can shoot at a high percentage and he can get up to the 35 to 40% range, and just to say, if all those guys can get in the 33 to 37% range and shoot consistently from that distance, that is such a huge factor in the way the game is played today and for the Warriors, because then Steph is going to have an opportunity to do his thing. He's not going to have the focus on him that's placed on him now, because I can assure you that if I was playing same way, any screen, everything, if you have to do it, jump Steph, make him pass it to somebody else. We don't want Steph beating us.
Yes, sir. Traveling Urquidez in the chat saying, asking Rick, can you get your son to coach the Dub, please? I imagine he's referring to Brent Barry, who's currently an assistant with the Phoenix Suns, although it could be John, it could be Kenny, and who knows? But your answer to the Traveling Urquidez's question.
Well, I obviously, Brent surprised me that he really was interested in taking the job as an assistant coach, with Budenholzer down there. I thought they were grooming him to be the new GM for the Spurs, actually, because they figured that R.C. Buford was going to be retiring pretty soon, and they made him take him from VP of basketball operations at the Spurs and made him the general manager of the G League team. So I thought that was what was taking place. And obviously, when he got the invite to do that, that's something that I think he would like to do. And I'm sure that if he decides to do that, that he'll be really good at it because he really knows the game. He's a very intelligent person, a very intelligent basketball player. And, I hope it could work out for him, but we don't need to change. And, Steve has done a great job with the Warriors. I mean, Christ, other teams would pay a fortune to have somebody do what Steve has done for him over the years. And, but that's the nature of the beast. He understands it. When teams struggle, they always start questioning and you want to run off and make a trade. Even Draymond came up and said something. He doesn't like making changes and all like that. And all these teams with how many teams have had success changing coaches, every 2 years or something like that? Or,
very few.
It's very difficult to build consistency when you're doing that. You have to get a coach who you believe in, who you like the way that he's handling the players, who gets the players to put the effort forth necessary in every game, especially on defense, and play a brand of basketball that's fun to watch. And the Warriors certainly have been doing that. And the thing is that Steve doesn't have control over the level of play that these guys play at. That's up to them to perform at a high level and be consistent. He can't control that. But, the decisions he has made, I think sometimes, for me, I would go with the younger guys, especially after the way they've showed right now. I would say, wow, this is a bright sun coming out of a cloudy sky that we've had, and a few rays are coming through. Let's check it out. Let's see what these guys can do. And then I think you'll be able to make a much more intelligent decision as to whether you want to run out and try to get somebody before the trade deadline in order to have a chance to get the elusive championship. Right now, obviously, they're not going to win the way they're playing. I mean, that's, no way they're going to win the championship playing the kind of basketball that they've played over the last few months. But there's still a lot of time to go. And so, we'll see what happens.
And I'm curious again. I need to do some research because the Warriors, the way the cap is set up right now, if they want to convert Quinten Post into a guaranteed deal, he's currently on a 2-way contract, largely because the team had no cap space to give him a guaranteed contract. I don't know if they still can. I don't know if the prorated thing would allow them to fit him in, or if they're going to have to make a trade regardless to give Quinten Post the guaranteed contract he likely needs. But we will stay tuned for that. Rick, my only thing to add in regards to Steve Kerr, I've never once been a critic of his system. I think the product on the field and the players enacting what Steve Kerr wants, you see the brilliance on a routine basis. It's the personnel that, as you mentioned, like Buddy Hield starting, the faith in Buddy Hield, I don't get that. The minutes for GP2, I don't get that. Like let's see these young players on a more consistent basis, and let's see what they do if they're rewarded with minutes.
See, that philosophy, it's my philosophy. I've always felt that way. If you felt good enough about a player to commit millions of dollars to him by signing him to a contract that's a draft pick, play him.
Yeah.
I mean, play him.
Yeah.
Give him a chance, especially unless you have your nucleus of your championship team together doing stuff, you don't screw around, but you still give him as much opportunity to play, because, as I say, you can only learn so much sitting and watching and practicing. You've got to play.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. Rick, you're 8th all time in the NBA. No, I stand corrected. You're 4th. The number I was looking at originally collected your NBA and ABA stats. You're 4th all time in the NBA in the history of this game in free throw shooting. And I bring that up because that has been a huge issue for the Warriors this season. Gamer F2P in the chat is asking, what is your take on the Warriors free throw improving? And I bring that up in addition to Gamer F2P because the Warriors last night, Rick, were a perfect 14 of 14 from the free throw line. Andrew Wiggins led the way with that. And I was wondering, Rick, if you wouldn't mind sharing your philosophy on just the importance of free throw attempts. There's only a handful of players on this roster that consistently get to the free throw line. It's Kuminga, Wiggins, Steph, Curry, and that's about it. So they made them last night. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I was actually I was better than that. My last 6 years when I made the technique change, when I didn't get to shoot as many free throws, which it's much easier to shoot a higher percentage when you're shooting multiple free throws, because you can get up over 90% very easily. But if you're shooting 2 or 3 a game, like I was in my last 2 years, because I played a different role back with Rockets,
right?
And my last 6 years, I averaged over 92%. My last 2 years, I averaged over 94. Now, I brag about this because it's the only part of the game of basketball that you can be selfish and help your team. Okay. And it's the only part of the game that is consistent, which I've talked about many times. It's inexcusable to me that any player could live with himself if he's not making 80% of his free throws. It's, again, same distance, same size ball, same size basket. My God, how do you not make 4 out of every 5? It's just pathetic. And I'm waiting for the day that it comes along. And it's critical because if you're shooting 80% as a team as opposed to 72%, you're going to win 4, 5, 6, or whatever more games, especially the close games that the Warriors had. If you looked at those 27 games that they were 13 and 14 at the beginning of the season, somebody analyze that and looked at the free throws and see what the difference would have been if they had shot 80% from the free throw line in those games. How many more of those games would they have won just on the free throw line? Okay, would be significant. So that's the whole thing about it. But when is a general manager, when is an owner, when is a coach going to have enough balls to be able to tell a player, you have to switch and learn how to shoot underhanded free throw? Because I will guarantee them that if they came and learned how to shoot underhand free throws properly and worked at it, they will improve their free throw percentage without a doubt. without a doubt, you can improve it. And how in the world do you, as an employee, getting paid millions of dollars in the case of most everyone now? I mean, the lowest paid guy in the league almost makes $1 million, right? I mean, he does with properties and stuff. How do you tell your boss when he tells you need to do this? I'm not doing that. How the hell do you do that in the real world? You're fired.
No, you're right. You're making too much sense here, Rick. You're driving. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Traveling your Kita is adding that the Barry family is warrior gold. Absolutely. And I add to your guarantee. It's a double guarantee. If you were hired to fix free throw issues, they would be resolved, sir. Jardal in the chat bringing up your son Canyon, who practiced the underhanded shot and was wildly successful at it. He was one of the best free throw shooters in college. What did he hit? Like 88 or 89%?
No, he shot. Yeah, he got as high. He shot 90% one time. I think in the shortened season when he played in the G League when they had COVID and stuff, he didn't miss a free throw for the games that they played in. So, and he set a record at Florida for the most consecutive free throws in the game and all. But yeah, he was an 85 to 90% free throw shooter and shot it. But yeah, that's because he's this very smart kid. I mean, he's got his master's in nuclear engineering, and he said, "I'd be pretty stupid, being that and he was in physics. He was also in physics. He had his master. He had a degree in physics as well in the honors college, And the physicists have come out and said they tested the free throw. The most efficient way to shoot free throws is underhanded. It's scientifically proven. And yet guys won't do it. So he said, I'd be pretty stupid to have someone who was the greatest free throw shooters ever teaching me how to do this. And so that's why he did it. And, I said, just be prepared. You're going to get a lot of grief doing it, just like, I did. And I remember my father said, son, doesn't matter because they can't make fun of you if you're making them. And I remember the first time it happened, and I heard the guy in the stand say, what are you making fun of him for? He doesn't miss. And my son got the grief too. He missed a free throw in one game on the road in college, and he loved it. The fans started yelling out from the student section, you're adopted. And he thought that was pretty clever. But yeah, I mean, why would you not? I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm fourth, right around just below 90, a tenth of a point or something. But my last 6 years, I was over 92%, which is higher than anybody else. And Steph is right there. Steph is incredible, great free throw shooter. But just come on, take some pride in what you're doing.
Rick, the margin between the all-time leaders, and I wanted to show this on screen, but I don't have a good graphic here. Stephen Curry's the all-time leading free throw shooter currently. His free throw percentage is 91.06.
There we go.
Steve Nash is second at 90.43. Third is Mark Price at 90.39. And then fourth is Hall of Famer, NBA top 50 player, should be top 15. Rick Barry, you're at 89.98.
Yeah, but as I say, the thing is, with the technique that I had at the end, I was over 91% and 92%, over 92%, and then over 94 my last 2 years. So I was actually better at the end of my career. And this is the thing. I was the best free throw shooter at the time when I was playing, and I changed my technique. Why? To get better. So it reminded me, that's why I had so much respect for Tiger Woods, who was the best golfer in the world, who changed his swing 2 times. Why? To get better. Never be satisfied with what you're doing. You should always be striving to get better. And the free throws is the one area that, again, I'm going to keep pounding this until the day I die. Get somebody to have enough guts to make a guy switch. If you're shooting 40, 50, 60% from the free throw line, you have to change. You got to get better. That's pathetic.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean, when you're shooting it underhanded, you're adding more arc, you're adding more touch. It makes perfect sense. I don't know. I am with you. Art Jonesy in the chat wants me to ask you, Rick, have you seen Jeremy Sohan? I haven't seen this either. Apparently, according to Art Jonesy, Jeremy Sohan of the Spurs is shooting underhanded free throws. Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen him. It'd be interesting to see it. Here's the thing. I don't know what percentage he's shooting at all, but I'd like to see what his technique is, because most anybody that does it doesn't have the proper technique. They get too much wrist into it. And the same thing with the one kid that was at Kentucky who came into the pros and shot it a few times. He didn't shoot it properly. Wilt didn't have the right form when he did it. And so, like anything else in life, you have to have the fundamentals down and you have to have the technique down to shoot it to maximize the opportunity.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly agree. And I'm trying to find Jeremy Sohan's stats right now in terms of how he's shooting as his free throw percentage this year. He's currently shooting 72.9.
Okay, well, obviously he's not shooting it that well.
Well, and if he has made this, and if he is doing this, this is a new thing because everything I looked up right now shows that Sohan's been doing a one-handed free throw, like kind of like Mason Plumlee. I don't know if you've seen that, and it has not been working. So maybe he just made this switch. I'm very curious.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Why in the world, if you have a player and he's doing that and he's going to make a change, why wouldn't you call me and ask me to show him how to do it the right way?
Yeah. Good,
I mean, seriously, why would you just
point.
let him go and make a change? And if he's improved a little bit, just think of what he might be able to do if he actually refined his technique.
Great point. You're absolutely right. And Gamer FTP adding underhanded free throws have less gravitational centrifugal force, meaning a softer bounce, even if it misses. Wholeheartedly agree. That's the touch factor of it. Going back to some chat questions as we wrap it up here. Dan Coach Emilio, who has his own channel on YouTube.
I know Dan.
Yes, and his brother, I believe you're even more familiar with, writing that he watched all of it. Referring to you, Rick, playing for the Warriors as a 14-year-old. Mike Riordan was the original Dylan Brooks. Is that true? What are your thoughts on that, Rick?
What's that?
That Mike Riordan was the original Dylan Brooks. Was he like a defensive pest out there?
Mike Riordan? No. There were other guys that were way better defensive players than Mike Riordan. But Mike Riordan was brought up because he's the one that jumped over my back in the playoffs and stuff, and Al Atlas got thrown out of the game instead of him. I mean, which was kind of crazy.
That's what he's referencing here. Okay, and he's saying that Al Atlas would have destroyed Riordan if allowed.
Oh my God! Please, I mean, exactly. Al's nickname was the Destroyer. So, if Al had decided to have gone into professional boxing, there's no doubt in my mind he probably would have been a world champion. He had such quick hands and really athletic, and he was tough. Yeah,
there you go. And he was asking. He followed up asking about your thoughts on that play. So I got to look that up on YouTube. I don't know what this is referencing, and I'm damn curious now.
You never saw the game 4 in Washington when we played?
No, I don't know the specific play. I don't.
If you get to watch the game and they have a chance of the game, just watch the tip off. Mike Riordan will just take a big shot, and Elm will be right in the chest on the jump ball.
Of game 4 of the NBA Finals in '75.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as he did that, I says, "Oh, okay, right." So, okay, yeah, you want to get me in a fight to get me thrown out of the game. You guys are desperate, and so I knew right then that those guys are in big trouble.
So that's what he's referencing. That Mike Riordan was was basically like an asshole.
He tried to get me in a fight so I could get thrown out of the game with him, and then that way, they were desperate to try to win a game.
Matt Brotherton in the chat, as we wrap it up here, is asking, Matt Brotherton says that he was too young to have watched your era, Rick, but he's curious to know what your thoughts are about big leads that once upon a time felt safe. They don't feel safe anymore. The Warriors lead the NBA over the last 2 seasons in terms of blown leads when leading by 15 or more at the half. They've done it 8 times over the last 2 years. The next closest team is at 5. What are your thoughts on that, Rick? Because he's right. Leads are not safe like they used to be.
Two reasons. Number one reason is loss of focus. Loss of focus. Here's the thing, and I always try to tell my players, guys, these are professional players. They're the best players in the world. They're like you. If you're down 15, are you going to quit? I don't think so. You're going to come out and give your best shot. And so I told my players, listen, if we're going to maintain this lead, we have to play better than we played to get the lead because they're going to play better trying to get back in the game. And so if you don't stay focused, that is what can happen. It's number one reason why is the players who have the lead, that team loses focus and gets a little overconfident. And the second reason is that you have the 3-point shot, which gives you the chance to get back in quickly.
Final thoughts, Rick, on tomorrow's, in my opinion, huge Warriors-Lakers game, nationally televised. It's always fun seeing Steph and LeBron match up. Jared Vanderbilt scheduled to come back. The Lakers are a big team. My prediction, Rick, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are, is if Steve Kerr goes with this small ball starting 5 again, they're going to be done from the tip. You can't have Wiggins at the 4 matched up with Anthony Davis. That cannot fly. If the Warriors trust the youth, I think they have a shot. Your prognosis, your prediction, sir, and your thoughts on tomorrow.
Well, I think it all comes down to what decision that Steve makes. I mean, if I were him, I'd play those 2 guys.
Yeah, me too.
I would play them, give them an opportunity to play on the big stage, and this is great for them to see. I mean, they're going to be on national television. They just have played well in 2 games in 2 games in a row, especially for Santos. And so, yeah, let's see what they can do. I mean,
Yeah.
why not? I mean, what the hell? And then if not, you bring your other guys in and you can make a change in that regard. But I would like to see that happen. Reward those guys for what they did. Give them a chance to feel good about it. And it could be the best thing or it could be the worst. They could get, maybe they can get destroyed and psychologically they go, oh my God, blah, blah. Oh, but then again, it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
So I'd take the shot because they got to find out what they can do because you got the trade deadline coming up. Do you need to make a trade? Let's see. Let's find out. Let's play these guys in this game tomorrow night and see what they do and have a better idea of what we have to work with.
You're absolutely right. 100% right. I don't like what ifs in my scope of reality. Get the answers instead of just leaving these ambiguous, concepts, players in this case. Just figure it out. Let's learn if these two can work or not. They look good. They look good. They look like NBA players, Rick. I do hope they play as well in tomorrow's game. Did you see those Anthony Davis comments, by the way? He was interviewed today by Shams Charania on ESPN and publicly came out and said, I don't like playing the 5. I want to play the 4. He basically sent a very clear message to the Lakers that he wants them to trade for a center. He brought up the fact that in 2020, they won a championship with Dwight Howard as the center of that team, and Davis was at the 4. I don't know if you saw those comments, but that's it. I just summarized it, I think, as best as possible. Your thoughts, sir, if you haven't seen that interview on Anthony Davis.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, all he's doing is making it known. But the thing about that is I think that's what he should say to his coach. That's what he should say to his general manager. You don't have to come out because it's like you're criticizing the team. That's not good stuff. It doesn't help. I mean, if you're going to do that, keep it in-house. And I can understand that. And he is a hell of a 4. Why not? So, hey, tell guys, I think we can be a better team. Keep it in-house. You don't have to come out and be talking about all that crazy stuff. All that does is create other problems for your team, and you don't need to do that. So I also saw him making a comment about this, like most of the players with the All-Star game and the new format they're having. Well, we'll see what happens with that. So, I mean, because it's up to the players. The players obviously don't treat it as an important game, which is unfortunate. And I was happy to see, because I thought I'm the only guy getting criticized. I saw Magic Johnson and all these other guys are talking about that they used to play. It was competitive. It meant something to them. And then all of a sudden, after the 80s or whatever, it's just all of a sudden it's changed. And now it's become an exhibition. And it's not a very serious game, which is unfortunate. But if that's what it is, then let's maximize that and say, hey, call it the NBA, exhibition game, where the All-Stars are going to play. They're going to put on a show, and it's not going to be a competitive game because the players don't want to do that. I really look forward to the All-Star game because it was a real challenge. Can we, in the Western Conference, beat the Eastern Conference? And that was a big deal. And in '67, the last time, it's 58 years since the game was on that side of the Bay, in the Bay Area, the All-Star game. 58 years. And that game was critical, and we won that game. It was a hell of an effort on our part with an amazing team. I mean, I got a picture with 7 people in it in this black and white photograph, and 7 people that are in that picture are all top 50 players from that game.
Oh my God,
Well, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Jerry Lucas with the starting front line.
Wow.
Yeah, with
That's
Oscar
all-time,
Robertson
man.
in the backcourt.
Do you like the new format? Like I like it because I feel like
I don't know how is it going to play out? What's it going to be like? We'll see, but I don't know where that necessarily is going to, incentivize the guys to want to play hard. I guess the one thing is the team that plays against the Rising Star team doesn't want to get embarrassed, I would think.
And the Rising Stars will likely give real effort, right? So
game, I would think so. The thing that made me happiest when I got to be an honorary coach of the Rising Stars game a couple of seasons ago.
I remember that.
I went into the locker to the guys and I said, guys, I'm going to ask you only one thing. Play this game like it means something, and play as good as you can play and show people you know how to play the game the right way. Then make the all-star team next year or the year after, and you can go out and screw around and have a good time like the other guys are doing right now. But please, I think you'll appreciate play, and they did. And that's why that team won, because they went out and they played. It wasn't all the craziness, no defense doing stuff. They played good, sound basketball and wound up winning. So hopefully, we'll see. That's the only thing I can figure. Those guys are going to play hard, so that team's got to play hard. So if they bid that one, then, hey, you might as well go ahead and win the whole thing. Here's the deal. The winning team, 8 guys, right? $125,000, Cyrus. That's more money than I made in my first 3 full seasons playing in the NBA. They're getting it playing 2 games on a
That's a
Sunday.
shame. That's a
2
shame.
games to 40 points. Not even a full game.
That's a
Crazy.
shame.
Different world.
It was a different world. It was, and that is a shame. Rick, I always love the time we spend together, sir. I'm sure the audience feels the same way. You can follow Rick Barry on all social media platforms at Rick24 Barry. Mention Rick's name at Dr. Rosanelli's office to get $500 off. And Rick, you have other ventures you'd like to promote, as we always do. Fire away, sir.
Yeah, sure. Go to medicilleaf.com, 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 and also AloeMD, ALOEMD.com, and Go Sleeves, SLEEVES.com. And at each one of those, check out all the products. The sleeves are amazing. I never play pickleball without mine. They're just absolutely awesome product. And the code is all my initials, RB, small RB24. RB24 is the code for all 3 of those sites. The first 2 are cannabinoid products, no THC and stuff in them. I use this stuff on a regular basis. I hope they work for you as well as they've worked for me. I've seen miraculous things happen with them. Give them a shot. Try them out. Use the code RB24.
Beautiful. And one more time, you can follow Rick Barry on all social media platforms at Rick24 Barry. It is always a pleasure, sir. We'll be back at this tomorrow night. Warriors-Lakers post-game on a Saturday night. That should be a fun time, provided it's not a blowout. Rick, love you, sir. Thank you as always. Thank you to everyone. Any topics we did not cover, Rick? Are we good?
No, I mean, let's I'm looking forward to seeing the starting lineup for tomorrow's game.
And with that, bye-bye.